over the past few weeks, our Small Business Council has hosted our Workforce Resources Bootcamp sessions. So the first one was Incumbent Worker Training Funds. The next one was Federal Bonding or Work Opportunity Credit, Tax Credit. Then the last one we did was On the Job Training Funds, and that brings us to today. So hopefully you all have been looking at those links, and if you have need of looking at all of those links and for the past sessions, we are happy to send those to you. These sessions are really important to our members, and knowing that they have the tools that they need in the workforce space. So this and other programming is made possible by our sponsors. So I want to take this time to say thank you to Independent Bank, Wyatt, Tarrant and Combs, and United Healthcare. So now we are going into our session number 4, Registered Apprenticeships. And we are extremely fortunate to have Shalandria Shaw on the panel. Actually, she's leading today, so she is our subject matter expert. So I'm going to jump right in and just tell you a little bit about her. Shalandria Shaw began her professional career as a public educator for the Haywood County Schools. In that role, she was an award-winning classroom teacher, and having educated and inspired over 900 of Haywood's finest 3rd and 6th grade students. So she was called on to apply her teaching philosophy on the local government level at the Brownville City's Community Development and Engagement Liaison, where she designed and implemented programs and projects to move the community forward. And so she really has a passion to really help young people. And Shalandria was recruited by the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development to regionally grow state registered apprenticeship programs. She currently monitors over 100 programs and 1,400 apprentices in West Tennessee and consults hundreds of employers across 21 counties on effective workforce development strategies. She collaborates with the Greater Memphis, Northwest, and Southwest local workforce development areas, federal and state agencies, the K-12 system, post-secondary institutions, intermediaries, and more to make the economic prosperity reality for all Tennesseans. Without further ado, I want to just present to you our subject matter expert for today, Shalandria Shaw.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Patricia. As I attempt to share my screen, I just would like to let the participants know that employers everywhere are discovering a new type of employee. They create your future workforce, lift up your community, and help you grow your business. The state of Tennessee calls them a registered apprentice. And registered apprenticeship programs, or RAPs, as we like to call them, are changing lives for Tennesseans. We have over 7,300 apprentices across Tennessee, and we are growing every day in West Tennessee, thanks to our employers and those job seekers who are accepting the challenges of closing those skills gaps. So at this time, I am going to share my screen, and I will share this presentation with Patricia to send to the participants. So this is what we call our Apprenticeship 101 presentation. And here I'm just going to give you a high-level overview of what the apprenticeship structure looks like in the state of Tennessee and the impact that it is making across the state. So these are not your grandfather's apprenticeships. We have apprenticeships across industries and across the state of Tennessee. Many of them are Fortune 500 companies. Most of them are just our mom and pops, or even our government institutions who are utilizing apprenticeships to lead and grow a highly skilled, highly qualified workforce pipeline. Apprenticeship Tennessee is a consortium of 7 state agencies working together to bolster apprenticeships throughout the state. Of course, it is led by our governor, Bill Lee. We work across several state agencies, but the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, we know that the state of Tennessee has over 600,000 Tennesseans without high school diplomas. We want to get them in registered apprenticeship programs where there is transparency in the on-the-job learning structure. There's transparency with wage progression. And most of all, in the year 2023, we desire for no Tennessean to have to make a decision between earning and learning. Apprenticeships give that job seeker an opportunity to earn and learn in a desired field. So what are the components of apprenticeship? Apprenticeships must have employer involvement. The apprentice is an employee receiving a wage and benefits. The federal government has pre-approved thousands of occupations. And so the employer will decide upon those occupations in which to apprentice the positions that they would like to register with the state and federal government for the registered apprenticeship program. So the on-the-job learning has been outlined by the federal government. However, the employer does have some flexibility in that they can rename the occupation to suit their business needs, and they can also modify up to 25% of the on-the-job learning outline. Next is the related technical instruction or training. This is a portion of the program where the employer creates an outline of classroom training. And the state of Tennessee does have free resources available to our employers. For example, WorkForge, formerly 180 Skills, has over 800 online courses available to help employers offset their related technical instruction. So that is a free resource available to our apprenticeship sponsors and employers. The next component consists of a wage progression scale. So in the state of Tennessee, an apprentice cannot make below the minimum wage of $7.25. So an apprentice must make higher than that minimum wage. Also, as the apprentice moves up and upskills throughout the program, they are rewarded with skill gains, and it is up to the employer to decide what that incremental wage will be. However, there must be a minimum of a start, middle, and end wage throughout the apprenticeship program. And the last component consists of the National Occupational Credential. And this is what that credential looks like. Of course, this is what we call a journeyman certificate in the apprenticeship world. This is a certification that is conferred by the sponsor or employer, and it is endorsed by the state and federal government. And may I add that this credential is transferable across state boundaries. As far as the on-the-job learning and related technical instruction, our apprenticeship programs follow this outline. So when it comes to an apprenticeship, we basically want to measure the length of the program in hours, right? And so basically for a year, in a regular 40-hour work week. We have apprenticeship programs that range from 2,000 hours to 8,000 hours. But for every 2,000 hours of on-the-job learning, that must be supplemented by 144 hours of related technical instruction. We work with our employers to create training programs. And so after the employer decides what positions they would like to apprenticeize, they also have to decide what roles they're going to play. In the state of Tennessee, we have post-secondary institutions who will be happy to sponsor and also train in partnership with the employer. This is to help the employer focus on hiring the apprentice, paying the apprentice according to that incremental wage scale, also providing the on-the-job learning and assuming any cost for training. And the state of Tennessee is happy to have resources available to employers to help offset those costs. For example, we have state apprenticeship funds allocated to assist employers with the reimbursement of wages or any investments they have made in training apprentices. The sponsor is responsible for tracking the apprentice in the online federal system we call Rapids 2.0. The sponsor documents the on-the-job learning and the related technical instruction hours. And another partner that's very important to this program is the training provider. In most cases, the employer plays all three roles. And of course, the state of Tennessee is there to support the employer, the training provider, and the sponsor throughout the life cycle of the registered apprenticeship program. Apprenticeships in the state of Tennessee are registered. The state of Tennessee is happy to be an SAA state, meaning that the federal government has given us the authority to approve and monitor our own programs. So we are a state apprenticeship agency, and we have been for the past year. What we're also excited about is the certification of pre-apprenticeships in the state of Tennessee. Pre-apprenticeship is another strategy to form a talent pipeline through strategic partnerships. The employer creates a memorandum of understanding, whether it be an adult education program, the Department of Corrections, a local school system, or a college. Pre-apprentices are given the opportunity to learn the related technical instruction related to the employer's apprenticeship program. And with that, the employer is obligated to interview the pre-apprentice. If the employer decides to hire that pre-apprentice, then any on-the-job learning and related technical instruction that took place during the pre-apprenticeship, the employer will give that pre-apprentice credit as they enter the long-term employment opportunity for the registered apprenticeship. So as you can see, the pre-apprenticeship and the registered apprenticeship are a strategy, and it's a win-win for future students who are seeking to explore work-based learning opportunities. Those work-based learning opportunities could soon develop into a registered apprenticeship, creating a smooth pathway to a lifetime career. If you would like to follow Apprenticeship Tennessee, please do not hesitate to reach out to us on social media. You can also visit our website, apprenticeshiptn.com. If you would like to find a program and connect with, for example, one of our exemplar programs Atlantic Track, who is also a USDOL apprenticeship ambassador. We will be happy to connect you with our practitioners in order to help you create a program that is conducive to your workforce needs and today's job seeker. We have directors in each part of our grand divisions of Tennessee, and I am happy to serve as the West Tennessee Regional Apprenticeship Director. I do travel our 21 counties in the West. I like to say that West Tennessee is the best of Tennessee. And with all of the growth occurring, it is an exciting time for apprenticeships. And at this time, I would like to entertain any questions related to the presentation. I really want this meeting to be one that the employers find worth their time. Apprenticeships vary depending on the needs of the employer. So Dottie, I don't mind answering questions at this time, if you're willing.
Thank you, Shalandria. I've got a few until our, oh, here we go. James Hoggard, question. Can you provide an example of a sponsor which is not the company, that's interesting, for which the apprenticeship is developed, and what incentive would such a sponsor have in serving that role? So I guess he's saying, does the sponsor have to be the payrolling company?
Great question, James. The simple answer is no. The sponsor does not have to be the employer. I would say one of the popular models would be a TCAT. Tennessee College of Applied Technologies are one of our great partners, and most of them are trained and they welcome employer partnership. And a part of the incentive for the employer is that TCAT will sponsor that program for them, meaning especially if they are receiving training. So if that TCAT is sponsoring, 9 times out of 10, they're also a training provider.
Gotcha. All right, I've got a couple of questions. What is the minimum age that the apprentices have to attain?
There is no minimum age per se. It definitely is contingent upon the occupation.
Okay.
So whenever we have a question, when it comes to labor standards and child labor, we consult with that office to make sure, that we're following the law, and that whatever it is, the job responsibilities, that it's lawful for whoever that apprentice or pre-apprentice is. I will say that as far as pre-apprenticeships, very soon, pre-apprenticeships will be a part of the Tennessee Ready Graduate qualifications. And so students who are involved in pre-apprenticeships will they will waive some of those child labor standards because they are in a monitored, controlled work-based learning experience.
Are there any jobs that are not allowed or that are off limits for the apprenticeships?
Not that I have seen. I've been in this, Dottie, for almost 2 years now. We are growing across industry sectors.
Okay. And you mentioned that payroll has got to be, you've got to understand the start to end. Can you kind of explain that a little bit more?
Well, for an apprentice is an employee. They are a W-2 employee. I've learned to say that through my many meetings with employers, because we have to be specific. I do work with employers who have contracted employees, and they're looking to transition them into W-2 employees. So apprentices, they are not necessarily what we would call full-time. That is determined by the employer what full-time means, right? But the apprentice is an employee, a W-2 employee. They're on payroll.
Okay, so when I think of a W-2 employee, some of our participants today, and pardon me, I'm at my children's house, and you can see I've got a four-legged friend here somewhere. Some of these companies are large enough that they have to provide health insurance. So these are 40-hour-a-week apprentices. So they would have the same benefits as the company's other employees?
The state of Tennessee doesn't really regulate, as far as the Office of Apprenticeship, what a full-time employee is, right? So we have that conversation with our employers because it could mean something different. Not every employer has the same benefits. But what we know is that that apprentice is on their way to full-time employment, whatever that is for that company.
Okay, so say that I've decided that I want to have an apprentice to do marketing in my company. What do I do and how do I start?
Well, you start with me, and this is a great informational session. I appreciate the Greater Memphis Chamber. We are great partners, and you guys help us to lead and grow apprenticeships across Greater Memphis. But what it would take, it certainly would take a meeting, a one-on-one for us to really talk about the responsibilities. Who's the sponsor? We know who the employer is, but who's going to train? An employer truly drives the bus, and we really try to curate a program that is flexible and one that meets the employer's needs. Yes, there are some minimum qualifications, and I am there to ensure that that program is compliant and the apprentices are being paid and they are safe. But this training program belongs to the employer. It is their proprietary product.
I'm muted. James wants to know, do you know of any employers that do provide benefits, that would be healthcare benefits and other benefits, to their apprentices?
Yes, most programs. Most programs. We say in the Office of Apprenticeship, we don't apprenticeize anyone into poverty. So we're talking about, that is not our goal. Most of our apprenticeships, most of the employers, the start wage is $15 an hour.
Yeah, I was
So
going to say minimum wage is not something that most of us are paying now. We're either paying living wage or that $15 an hour.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Great. I see some familiar faces that are attendees, and boy, I'm going to embarrass her. One of our think tank members, Christine Esri, is here. Some of us deal with the highly technical on information technology, sometimes in chemistry, things like that. Can we find apprentices in some of those much more technical skills, or are we going to have to take somebody who doesn't know a lot, and that training program is what gets them there? Is there any background?
Well, that's a great question. And what I love about apprenticeships, most employers, they are starting from ground zero when it comes to creating a training program for someone who walks through their front doors, right? But there are also pathways to different occupations and different levels inside of the company. And so employers really are strategic in having a pathway for someone who comes through their doors with no experience at all. There's an apprenticeship pathway for them. There's an apprenticeship pathway for someone who may come, whether it's degreed or non-degreed. The employer decides what credit they're going to give that apprentice, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen where apprenticeships are used strictly internally for promotional circumstances where those positions are highly competitive. There is an apprenticeship because what the employee is doing is committing to upskilling. And so the employer is rewarding that commitment with a new position and with the wage progression.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a success question. So you've been doing this for 2 years. Mm-hmm. You got any idea of the apprentices that you've placed? How many have gone full-time with their sponsor or their company?
All of our apprentices are full-time. I just don't know.
They've
Even
all
by,
transitioned from
yes,
apprentice to full-time?
yes. Now, pre-apprenticeship could be different. You know, we have pre-apprenticeships inside for incarcerated individuals. We have pre-apprenticeships for high school students.
Mhm.
So those pre-apprentices are learning, right? They're getting the classroom training. They're learning the curriculum. The employer interviews them, right? Many times we're trying to get pre-apprentices some work experience. It's exploratory. So it depends on how you define success. You
Mhm.
know, most employers are happy with the program because it's one they created. And
Gotcha.
if we need to make any adjustments, the employer can do that. But what I know for a fact, Dottie, is that every apprentice is employed.
That's amazing. Do you have people coming to you that say, I want to be an apprentice somewhere, or is it just companies that are, does it start from both ends?
It does. It does. And the state of Tennessee really is working on how to make apprenticeships accessible to job seekers because the employer drives the bus, right? It belongs to them. We don't share any information without their permission, but we do encourage employers to advertise apprenticeships as they would advertise a regular position in their company, as they would advertise an internship, a summer internship, summer work, you know, advertise your apprenticeships. When job seekers do approach me about available apprenticeships, what I encourage them to do, if you're interested in an employer, ask the employer, do they have a registered apprenticeship? And if they don't, and they're interested in you, let's have a meeting. You know, let's connect everyone so we can talk about what that registration process looks like.
Okay, so James has got another question. Do pre-apprentices also get paid, and do the participants receive a wage in addition to classroom credit?
Pre-apprentices can be employed. They can receive on-the-job learning. They just may not have the time. You know, if I'm in high school, I can't work 40 hours a week, but they could work in the summer, they could work after school. And so the beauty of it is the sponsor is tracking those hours. So eventually, if that student, that pre-apprentice moves into an apprenticeship, all of that on-the-job learning, all of the related technical instruction hours are calculated into that registered apprenticeship.
Thank you. All right, so Christine wants to know what's the most foundational step to get started when creating a registered apprenticeship, and then the other one, what have you found to be the biggest roadblock in creating a registered apprenticeship? Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christine. Great question. And I would say the answers to both questions are pretty similar. When I'm facing employers every day, and every day I have employers who don't have a written training program. And so what we know is that today's job seeker, they are looking for structured on-the-job learning, structured training. They're looking for transparency in wage progression, and they want to be rewarded for upskilling. So an apprenticeship, especially on this side of COVID, is a great way to hit the reset button. I have employers who first want to reward their incumbent workers. They want to make there's the veterans on the job, they want to make them journeymen before they bring any new employees in for an apprenticeship program, which is shiny and new, right? You want to reward your current workforce because they're the ones that they're going to be the mentors for your new apprentices. So you want to make sure that the journeymen they've been rewarded and you have established who they are so that they can set the standard for the new culture that you're trying to create through this structured training program. So I would say that's a roadblock because 9 times out of 10, If a company doesn't have a training program written, right, a plan, then it takes some time to develop that. And of course, in my office, we're here to assist the employer.
That was
with
my next question. So you could help create.
Oh,
such a program.
absolutely. I'm a former educator. I look at it like creating a lesson plan, and I love it.
One of these days when we're not doing a very important webinar, you and I will have to talk about Brownsville. I spent way too many happy weekends in Brownsville, Tennessee with dear friends and my parents.
Proud daughter of Haywood County.
Ah, love that place.
Thank you.
Patricia?
Yeah, I was going to piggyback on that because Shalandria and I had the pleasure of speaking a little bit before this started, and she mentioned that fact that a lot of employers don't have the official training program. And so this is a whole nother topic, Shalandria, to unpack for our business, our small businesses specifically today. So what does it
I
look?
think that means that you're going to get roped into doing how to create a training program for us.
Shalandria, this is where I'm going.
Hey, those are my best days when I'm doing that work.
That will be phenomenal. And so
we do have somebody with their hand up, but
yeah.
Tanya, oops, she was here, then she was gone. But Tanya Durham had her hand up for something. Did you want it? Ms. Durham?
Unless she was saying, yes, count me into that.
Yes,
training.
count you in. Good.
So for companies who have already established an apprenticeship program, or they're in the infancy stages, and because they're the subject matter experts for their industry, would you suggest that they really vet that by you before they get too in the weeds of that, because you want to make sure that they're compliant, or they just need to write it and just let you kind of eyeball it?
Absolutely. I'm going to ensure that they meet the minimum requirements, because at the end of the day, the employer owns the program. So you can always go over and above, right? I don't want the 3-ring binder that's 4 inches thick. I'm just going to make sure that you meet the minimum requirements, but internally, you can have a very robust training program that's very attractive to job seekers, right? And something that's very transparent, that your veteran employees, everyone knows the path to success from entry level on up. So yeah, that's one of the services that we provide at the Department of Labor. We want employers to consider us their back office. And that's what we become when you register an apprenticeship training program. Like, we're your extra set of hands. So we're there to help you design, to implement, right? All within, our guidelines and within the scope, of the plan. But we're really there to assist Tennessee's employers. And for us, that means we're assisting all Tennesseans. So it's a win-win.
Perfect. Well, we will talk offline to try to get that set up for our
Sounds good.
members. Any other questions?
We do have a question. Christine was just thanking everybody, and I think Ms. Durham was too. So thank you all very much.
Miss Vontina Durham, she has a wonderful apprenticeship program, pre-apprenticeship, that was registered this year. If this is the Vontina Durham that I know, she has a program. We're looking to expand it. She has a dispatch and CDL program for truck drivers. She has a great pre-apprenticeship with a partnership with Memphis Shelby County Schools. We're working to expand that with the Tennessee Department of Corrections.
Gotcha. So we're sorry, Mr. We can't unmute you. Mr. James has another question, goes right along with that. Can you show employers examples of existing programs in various industries that match the type of program they want to develop? Say another CDL company comes along is her program, she just wanted to say that doing the CDL apprenticeship was the best thing her company ever could have done, created and implemented. So say there's another CDL, see, you ought to reach back there. That's
Great,
fabulous.
Doctor. Thank you.
So
Thank
say
you,
another
Ms. Durham.
CDL company comes along, can you say that we're working with a company and we've done this before? Or is her training program proprietary? Or could you at least give the outline of it to one company that wants to do something that's similar to what another one does?
Yes, we're all about, making connections. We understand your network is your net worth. So we want to make sure that everyone is successful in this work. Ms. Durham, for example, when she registered Excellent Trucking and Logistics, in your sponsorship packet, it's up to the sponsor to share their curriculum, because we have some sponsors who pay, right, for curriculums, like Mike Holt for electricians, that's very popular. And
Mhm.
training providers are paying thousands of dollars for that, right? So they're going to let us know on the front end whether or not they give us permission to
Mhm.
share their curriculum. However, if they would prefer for us not to, then we directly connect them so that that employer, training provider, sponsor can have the conversation with
Gotcha.
that person that's inquiring. Yes.
James, does that answer your question? If you'll hit that in the chat, that's a really, really good question.
Mhm.
I think he is doing that. Good. Yeah, that would be important, because I think some of us doing this, it's like falling off a turnip truck. We don't even know where to start. And to
Yeah,
come to you and you say, they could help a lot.
absolutely.
Yes, he said, yes, thank you very much.
We have several companies I'm working with now in IT, working to register their programs, and they have great training programs already. But
Mhm.
when you register your training program with the state, it opens the door.
I would like to share the last installment for our workforce resources will be on the 11th, which is next Thursday at noon, and that will really delve into opportunity youth. Each and every one of these sessions are recorded, so if you need those links, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, but we'll make sure that we send those to you in the follow-up. Shalandria, thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge on this topic. And Dottie, I'm going to turn it over to you. Do you have any lasting thoughts?
No, and for those of you who also are not busy on the morning of May the 11th, celebrating Small Business Month, the Small Business Council is going to have a fun breakfast panel on destination success. Kanji Anthony, who we all know and love, will moderate a panel with Carl Sledgewich. I've never pronounced his name right now. I apologize, Carl. Philip Ashley Ricks, our own famous chocolatier. And Kathy Buckman Gibson, who's now with KGB Enterprises. And that will be a breakfast meeting at 7:30 at the Holiday Inn Road in Memphis. So Shalandria, thank you very much. I think you will hear from Patricia and or me in the not too distant future about doing a session on how to create a training program, or at least a walk through. Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful end of your nice, gorgeous spring day. And thank you all for being here with us today.